Thank you, Chair. My question goes to the four speakers, and it's directly tied to the financial contribution associated or given to students from abroad. They come to look for education, which is important in Canada, but I think they also play an important role in the profitability of secondary post-secondary institutions. And the contribution of francophone students. I would like you to talk about the financial weight they bring to the funding in your universities. The question goes to all four of you. Who wants to start? I may start, if you will. As I said, tuition fees and our markup rates are amongst the lowest in the country. An international student would pay twice what a Canadian student pays. So the tuition fees are the same as for Canadians, and the markup factor is related to the internationalization activities 100%. So it's the markups that allow us to have an international office, uh, counselors, mental health supports, and so on. So for us, the net is equal to what we need for our international activities. Who else wants to respond? For the colleges like us in New Brunswick, international students pay about twice the amount paid by Canadian international students. And now with the significant increase we had revenue generated from international students that enabled us generate new services, support services. And we offer services for permanent residency for graduates. And this is a free service we offer international students, amongst other services. May I? Yes. In St. Anne, students pay about $2,000 more than Canadian students. So there's some sort of scholarship system. But I will not, I don't have numbers to give you, but I can't hide the fact that international recruitment enables us to continue to exist. Canadians are having less and less babies, and the Acadian community in New Brunswick, where we look for most of our students, tend to go to major centers elsewhere. So this helps us financially, not necessarily per capita, but when you look at the total number. Ms. Loisy, I'll go in the same direction as Mr. Tardif. Very often, I have the impression that we want us to say that survival of our institutions depends on the arrival of international students, and we are placing greater weight on their tuition fees, but it's mainly to run our universities. But here, there's a difference of not up to $2,000. It's rather $1,600 per year that they pay, $1,600 more. I find myself in a funny situation because international students represent about 75 or 80% of our student population. The rate is excessive, and it's mainly due to the reality of our region. There's been an exodus of young people and families. So immigration is important. If it's important, targets exist. It's not only Hearst University that depends on the influx of the new students for its survival, but it's also our employees, our employers, and our communities. So they play an important role. I don't like to say it's the reason for which they are there, but I would like to turn to our strategy of internationalization. There's a comprehensive approach because we want interactions between people from Hearst, people from Cameroon. We eat Putin and Dole. So there's that interaction. So it's on these that I want to lay emphasis rather than on the financial aspect. Thank you very much for your responses. It's not always that issue that is presented when we talk of funding of universities. I think it's the most important aspect. What you've mentioned when you talk about their contribution, the contribution of people who come study in your territory, their contribution to the vitality of your communities, that was contained in your comments presented previously. Now, when you talk about their integration, can you tell us about the government assistance you receive to help these people settle in your region? I may start this, and that's something I mentioned in my remarks. Since I came to Health University in 2015, I've been advocating settlement services for our temporary residents. So if there are settlement services that exist in Hearst University, because we set them up and they are funded with our own resources, with the creation of the international office and with the training of 3 people now and designations created, our university set this up. Of course, we have community partners who have the mandate to serve permanent residents with major language programs and settlement programs as well. We continue looking for ways of collaboration to make their services accessible to our students, even though they are not yet permanent residents, but knowing that that is the long-term objective. So we are trying to work with the various Francophone networks and the settlement services. Though we are not officially part of their funding mechanism, we find ways of collaborating because ultimately, to satisfy their donors, they must show that they have a number of permanent residents. And since we don't have a huge number of permanent residents in our communities, it's our students who will become those permanent residents. So we cannot expect that after 5 years, people will miraculously sign up to their programs when they graduate university. So we find a way of making these future clients loyal with information sessions and workshops. Anyone else wants to speak on this matter? In our community in New Brunswick, we are targeting services offered to international students instead of being represented by intermediaries abroad. Our business model is strongly supported by the provincial government that helps us financially. So there are things we set up with the assistance. Unfortunately, international students are out of the radar of IRCC that has most of its services focusing on permanent residents. So we are expecting funding from the federal government to help, and this could have an impact on students here, and that will be positive promotion of our institutions abroad. Thank you. Anyone else wants to speak? At St. Boniface, I can't say we have settlement services that are offered directly by the university. We don't receive additional funding for such activities, but we collaborate with our community partners like Accueil Francophone, whose mission is to offer settlement services to Francophone immigrants in Manitoba. Thank you. Mr. Tardif? Yes, I may. It looks like what my colleagues have just said. There's an initiative, Study and Stay in New Brunswick, Study and Stay in Nova Scotia. These are provincial initiatives. We have workshops that we provide to all our students. Unfortunately, in Nova Scotia, this workshop is provided almost exclusively in English. And it's towards the end of their program, they are trained in English so that they are in a better position to settle and work in English, but we would like something similar in French. Did you say study and stay? Oui. Yes, study and stay in Nova Scotia. I don't have the name in French. I'm not sure how they call it in French. In French, it's étudier pour m'y établir, study and stay in English.